So I was out in the car the other day and I broke down for the first time in it. It started a few days ago. I felt a slight misfire, but it was just fleeting. Happened a couple of times and then didn't happen again. So I just thought it was one of those things. But then I was out in it the other day and the misfire started and got worse and worse. I could restart the car quite a few times, but it was running rough. But then it gradually got worse until it wouldn't run and wouldn't restart. Luckily, I managed to pull up where I could leave the car. So I then came home, got some bits. I could walk home, luckily. Got some bits, went back. The car restarted and drove home. But since then I've let it run a few times and it seems that it'll start fine. When it's cold it's fine, but as it gets hotter it develops a misfire. So I'm thinking it's ignition. It feels very binary to me, that it's either, the cylinders are either firing or not firing. It doesn't feel like a fuel starvation issue. It really felt quite, like several cylinders weren't firing. So I'm thinking it's ignition. I'm going to replace the coil as the first thing, because I've always had my doubts about this coil. It was a cheap coil when I bought it. And the coil does get hot, but I think that's fairly normal. It's not too hot to touch, but it is pretty, you wouldn't want to hold it for too long. So I'm going to start with the coil, then if that doesn't do it I'm going to do the condenser and points. I don't think I've ever replaced the points on my car. I mean, I've done 2,000 miles on it, but I don't think I've ever replaced the points. So I'm going to do them and also the condenser. I've got the old coil out, the silver one, which I think was Lucas, but a modern version. This is the one that I bought, a new one. It's a Lucas again, but they call it a sports coil, so supposedly it's got a higher voltage output. Not going to make much difference, but I just thought, why not? But what is surprising is, and they are slightly different, they've got slightly different markings. What is surprising is the weight difference. The sport coil is quite a bit heavier than the one that was fitted. Not sure if that really means much, but it's an interesting thing that there's a definite weight difference and a very slight size difference, but just that was interesting that this gold coloured sports coil is a fair bit heavier. So as I say, may not mean anything, may mean it's slightly better made, who knows, but just thought it was worth mentioning anyway. So I'm just going to fit this and then we'll restart the car. Okay, let's start it. One down. It's not the coil, obviously. Okay, so next is going to be the condenser and the points, I think. Might do the condenser first, see if that makes any difference, then do the points. Okay. So it's it's a Lucas rotor arm, so it's obviously, I would imagine, fairly old. Actually, let's do the rotor arm, see if that makes any difference. Okay, So this is a Power Spark rotor arm. I saw something on Wadham's website about some of them have a rivet which can arc. Don't know, this one doesn't have a rivet, it's moulded in, so well, that's a much more positive fit on the distributor shaft anyway. Okay, try that. No, not that. So I'm going to do the condenser now. Obviously I'm keeping all the old parts, although that's quite old and loose. Probably tighten up the metal piece inside, but that wasn't a problem, so I'll keep it as a spare. Okay, let's do the condenser. So I think I've solved the problem with the Misfire. I replaced the condenser in the distributor, and when I did that, the nut that holds the condenser wire to the contact breaker points was not tight. I wouldn't say it was loose, but it wasn't very tight. It's very odd because it actually compresses a nylon insulator. So the instructions that came with the original Lucas points tell you specifically not to over tighten it. I think it says do it finger tight and then tighten it half a turn more. And it's not a lock nut or anything, so I don't know, it'd be interesting to see if anyone else that has one of these has had an issue with that. Basically it just looks like the nut was slightly loose, so the condenser and the contact breakers weren't, or the points weren't really consistently conducting, which I guess maybe, you know, when that gets hot the nut expanded slightly, everything expanded slightly and it got looser. Very odd arrangement. You would think there'd be some sort of lock nut on there so that you don't have to tighten it. I've put some thread lock on there anyway, hopefully that won't come loose again, but it seems to have solved it. I mean, it may, the only reservation I've got is I replaced the condenser, you know, it was while I was replacing the condenser that I noticed the nut was loose. So maybe in the condenser, but I actually think it was the nut that was loose, and it seems to be running fine now, so problem solved. This is looking down on the distributor. I've replaced the condenser. You can see this nut here though that holds the spring for the contact breakers. This nut here that's got the blue thread lock on was slightly loose. I wouldn't say it was fully loose. It was not tight though, or snug. So that holds the black wire is the low tension lead from to the coil, and the orange wire is the condenser. So I'm assuming because this wasn't as tight as it should be, the low tension wire wasn't reliably making contact, hence causing the misfire. So as I say, you would think this would be some sort of lock nut, but it's not. So I've put some thread lock on it and problem solved, I think. So while we're talking about things, another little thing I've done is fix these rear quarter lights. These sit in this chrome channel here that moves slightly, and the glass was held in with like a rubber U channel. That had gone hard and perished, and the glass was loose, so actually the quarter lights could slip out of this pivot. Not good. So I looked at different U channels and to see what I could find. Tried different things. It was just really difficult to get anything that would fit. So what I came up with is using black silicon. So I masked the chrome and masked the window, and then put silicon on inside and outside, and then put silicon in this channel and pushed the glass in. So that kind of pushed the silicon out, and I just smoothed it, and once it had started to set, removed the tape. And it seems to work really well. Just try and show you. So before, these, when you open them, they'd move back slightly, so you couldn't close them. They'd hit the stainless steel surround, whereas now they work really nicely. So, and it looks, you can see that channel actually flexes with the window slightly, but also the silicon is flexing as well, and it seems to be holding up so far really well. So a lot easier than trying to get some rubber U channel or something like that fitted correctly. I tried 3 or 4 different things and none of them worked as well as this, so I'm pretty happy with that. It means the rear quarter lights can be used again.